Are you still struggling to lose belly fat even though you're eating better and working out? I know what that feels like. I looked like this for years until I learned what I'm gonna talk about in this video, which will help you get a similar transformation to me, but in way less time. Number one, we all lose fat differently. Here's the thing, we all lose fat completely differently. You know, some people lose fat in one area way faster compared to someone else. You know, take me for example, I lose fat in my arms and my legs, right? You know, so much faster compared to my midsection. Whenever I get lean, the last thing I see that actually gets definition, that is my midsection. Now why I'm telling you this is because it's so important, you know, to realize this yourself so you don't get discouraged. There will be times where you think to yourself like, man, I'm making like zero progress whatsoever because I'm not seeing results to the belly fat. But in reality, you're actually making progress, but it just takes way longer, especially in your midsection. Now this right here is when you have to remind yourself of what I just talked about. You know that some areas take way longer to lose fat in compared to others, and it's only a matter of time until you get the results in the stubborn areas that you want to lose fat in. So if you're seeing progress to other parts of your body, you know, your arms is getting leaner, your face is getting leaner, your legs is getting leaner, or whatever you can think of, but the belly fat doesn't seem to go away no matter what you do. Just realize that you're actually doing the right things, because the same way that you lose fat in your arms or in your legs is the same way you lose belly fat, but it's just a matter of time. You just have to do the right thing for a longer amount of time to lose the belly fat, you know, compared to losing fat in your arms. Now, if you're serious about changing your body and want me to personally guide you, you know, step by step along the way to lose the belly fat and enjoy the process along the way, then click the first link in the description. I only take on a few people at a time because each person that signs up, I want to give them my full attention. Number two, ab workouts won't fix your problem. I don't know about you, but for me personally, I've seen so many videos or, you know, social media posts in general, like do these free ab exercises to get a six-pack in no time. Or, you know, this classic that everyone sees, 5-minute ab workout to get a six-pack in just a matter of days, you know, or something similar. The truth is that most of these videos, right, are actually lying to you and giving you false hope. Because now I'm not saying, you know, that the ab exercises won't help. They will help you to get a stronger core and improve your ab muscles. However, it's completely different to losing belly fat and actually have the six-pack showing in the first place. Every single person has some form of abs, but the majority of people, right, they don't see them because they're covered in fat. You know, it's not like you do enough ab exercises and then just randomly 6 blocks of abs just appear in your stomach. That's not how it works. The main reason why you don't see the abs in the first place is because they're covered by body fat. So the main problem is just that you have more than enough fat that is covering your abs, and that's why you don't have any definition whatsoever, because there's just too much body fat all across your body, so you don't have like any definition whatsoever. Now why I wanted to tell you about this is because once you see these videos in the future, and trust me, you will see them, you just realize for yourself that it's complete BS what they're telling you. You know, do these free ab exercises for the next 3 weeks and you will get a six-pack, or, you know, some variation of that. Then you just realize, and you heard from this video, that it's all about the body fat and nothing else. You can do 1,000,000 crunches every single day if you wanted to, and you will still not see your abs whatsoever, because the body fat is what needs to go away. Number 3, you can't outtrain a bad diet. You've probably heard this quote so many times before. You can't outtrain a bad diet. But there's a reason why people say it, because it's actually true. One of the most common mistakes that people do, especially when they want to get in shape, is that they focus on one thing way too much compared to the other. You know, some people, they eat healthy, but they don't exercise. And some people exercise, but they don't healthy. And that just completely limits the amount of results that they actually get. The real magic happens when you combine the eating habits with the exercise and you put them together. That is actually the formula to get way faster results and not even have to do as much as you think. Now, this doesn't have to be a super intense routine. You know, you work out 6 days a week and only eat salads and nothing else. It doesn't have to be that intense whatsoever to actually start seeing good results. Now, the better approach that will actually give you way faster progress is by creating a routine for yourself that is actually sustainable and enjoyable. You know, for me personally, when I first wanted to get in shape, I started working out 3 days a week, and I didn't really eat clean right from the start. I started up with cleaning up my eating environment first. Instead of having snacks around my house, I started to have way better options and healthier options that wouldn't stop me from making progress. Instead of having snacks like chips or chocolate, I would have fruit or some Greek yogurt with honey on it. I noticed that as soon as I started having less unhealthy food at home, that it became so much easier to just start eating better overall. Number 4, simplicity is what gets you results. As the previous point I mentioned, simplicity is key when it comes to getting results. The harder you make something, or the more complicated it gets over time, it's gonna be so much tougher for you to actually build a routine that you can do consistently, and consistency is what you need to make the progress. Now, this is especially true when it comes to fitness and just getting in shape in general. People tend to overcomplicate it so much more than it actually has to be. And that's the reason why they're not getting the results they want. Now, just a quick reminder, if you want my personal help to guide you step by step along the way to lose the belly fat, meanwhile you enjoy the process, then click the first link in the description. I mean, when you really think about it, right, it's pretty obvious. Just look back to the times whenever you wanted to learn something new. Let's say you wanted to learn swimming, for example. When you first started, right, you didn't just throw yourself into the water as a kid and just started swimming. That makes no sense whatsoever. Most of us, we actually started, by putting on the arm puffs so we could actually float. And over time, we could remove them and start doing the first strokes, but only over a longer period of time. When you first got into the water and wanted to learn how to do a basic swim, then, you didn't think about different techniques like Olympic swimmers do, or, how to dive from the far edge of the pool or whatever you could think of. You only thought about one step at a time. You learned how to float, and then you actually learned how to swim. Now, why I'm telling you this is because fitness is no different whatsoever. It's the same thing like when you're learning a new skill. You start slow and you keep it simple. You build a routine that you can do consistently on a week-to-week basis. And before you know it, just trust me when I say this, when you actually get consistent, you will get results so much faster than you think. Number 5, the weekend is holding you back. This is one of the biggest things that's actually holding people back. They start off the week great, they're eating better and they're exercising. But as soon as the weekend comes around, they just completely go off the rails and basically undo all of the hard work that they did the previous days. Now, how do I know that this actually happens? It's because this happened to me for months and months and months at a time. So I actually know what I'm talking about. I always started off the week doing great things. I was eating better, I was going to sleep better, and I was exercising. But as soon as the weekend came around, I had terrible sleep. I was eating junk food several times a day, and I was drinking so much alcohol. The thing that is usually the biggest problem is actually the alcohol. Most people don't realize this, but having a beer, a Corona or whatever you can think of, it has way more calories in it than drinking a can of soda. And if you have like 5 or 6 beers, 2 days in a row, Friday and Saturday, the calories are so much higher than you actually think. Now, if you combine the alcohol that is very calorie dense on top of all the junk food that you usually have on a night out, the next time you weigh yourself, Monday on the next week, you will actually be way heavier than you were the week before because you just went crazy that small weekend. So the work that you did, the previous 5 days that week just didn't matter whatsoever, and you actually gained fat instead of losing it. Now, here's the thing. I'm not saying that you can never enjoy yourself again, but just be more conscious about it while you're outside doing your things. Why put in all this hard work the previous 5 days and just ruin it completely by going crazy on the weekends? Then you're just wasting your time for no progress whatsoever. You don't need to have 5 to 6 beers, Friday and on Saturday. Just have like 1 to 2 beers instead, and then go for low calorie options like low calorie drinks or whatever you can think of. And when you actually go out for junk food, because that mostly happens when you go out, right? Then just be smart about it. If you know you're gonna have junk food later at night, then just eat less food earlier in the day so you balance out the calories instead of going crazy on them. Now, why I'm telling you this is because small things like this is what makes a massive difference when it comes to the progress to your body, especially when it comes to losing belly fat. because there's a reason why we call it beer belly, because the beer goes straight to your belly fat more than anything else. Number 6, see it as a lifestyle. Too many people think about getting in shape as just something that they're gonna do for a temporary amount of time. How many times have you heard people say this? I'm gonna eat healthy for the next 3 months, lose the weight I want to lose, and then I'm gonna be happy and satisfied. But what happens after the 3 months? Most people, they go back to their old ways of eating again. And can you guess what happens next? The weight that they lost is slowly coming back because they didn't make some permanent changes. You just lose the weight and then you gain it all back because you didn't change your eating habits. You only did it temporary. Why not make it something that you actually enjoy so you can do it for a lifetime? Meanwhile you get the progress that you actually want to your body. I don't know about you, but for me personally, it feels like a complete no-brainer. And it doesn't have to be this boring approach, only having salads and water every single day. There are so many different recipes out there that are tasty, they're healthy, and they're easy to make. You just have to do some basic research to find them. Now be honest with yourself. You want to look good and be healthy for as long as possible, right? The only way this is actually possible is by creating a routine for yourself that you can do for a long period of time and still enjoy it. When it comes to food, just keep it as simple as possible. Remember what I said earlier. The more complicated you make something in your life, it's going to be way harder to stick to a routine and actually get progress. I personally keep it very basic, but just rotating between different proteins, chicken, beef or fish on a rotation. And I either have it with rice or potatoes. Now you can prepare these ingredients so many different ways, literally thousands and thousands of ways, so they can taste good every single time. Like I mentioned earlier, you just have to do basic research and try the recipes for yourself. Now, if I were to lose belly fat completely from scratch, there are some few specific things I would do. And in this video, I talk more about them.